Is there anyone or anything that unifies the Democratic Party? And my initial thought was, no, I can't think of one. It's certainly not Joe Biden. Joe Biden isn't even liked by the majority of his base at this point. I can't think of any other politicians that would be. It's not Kamala. Who would it be? Is there a person? Is there a person that unifies the Democratic Party across all the different coalitions? Because that's really what you're dealing with when you're discussing the current state of the Democratic Party. It resembles much less of a unified front and much more of this sort of hodgepodge, mashup coalition of various different groups of people with vastly different and distinct concerns, priorities, and values that all seem to be unified by one thing. And this is what hit. Holy shit. Donald Trump. Donald Trump is what holds the Democratic Party together at this point. There is no person within that party itself that unifies and motivates Democrats to vote like Donald Trump. And it's been that way for as long as he's been involved, especially in the past 4 years when Biden entered the equation. You would like to believe that the person that unifies the party is the person that's nominated by that party to run for president. But it's not. It's almost insane just how non-unified the Democratic Party is behind Joe Biden. To the point where it's now like a 50-50 whether or not he's going to get pushed out or drop out before the election or what's going to happen. We don't know. So that's a very unique level of non-unity within a party. And when you ask people, well, who would be the person to take his place? And nobody really has a good answer, including when people say Kamala Harris, his current running mate and vice president. Nobody's stoked about that either. And there's not one clear contender in this. They don't really have anybody that the whole party is excited to get behind. All they have is a person that they are horrified of winning, and that's Donald Trump. That's a unifying thing. That's the one thing that virtually every Democratic voter has in common, and that is we hate Trump. Trump unifies the Democratic Party more than he unifies the Republican Party. There are plenty of Republicans that aren't super stoked about Trump. I don't really know them. Apparently they exist. I'm imagining it's like the really boring ones, but they exist. There's some guy who wants to seem like he's like more deep than the average Republican. And he's like, well, I'm not stoked about Trump either, but it's like, yeah, well, I am fucking stoked about Trump. Okay, buddy. Anyway, that guy exists, I guess. But when you look at the Democratic Party currently, you have the LGBT community, you have the black community, the Latino community, the Muslim pro-Palestine people. You have the college-educated liberal white people. And those groups literally have almost nothing in common. They have completely different experiences in life. They have completely different values, completely different cultures, completely different priorities. The LGBT community as a group is concerned with a bunch of this stuff over here, pronouns and trans rights and gay marriage and whatever else. And then you have the black community and the Latino community that as a community are not super about all that LGBTQ shit. They're not. That's not their concerns. If you talk to the average black guy, his primary thing is not, trans rights. It's just not. They have completely different priorities. Latino people especially are very religious. The black community is very religious, very traditional actually in their social practices. And then you have the pro-Palestine people that are concerned with that thing going on. And it's like, yeah, and the LGBT community is having Pride Month and getting disrupted by the Palestine protests. And it's like, okay, so They're not getting along. I mean, nothing a Palestinian loves more than a trans guy, you know? And then you of course have the just the liberal whites, the college educated whites who just want so badly to not be racist that they basically just spend their entire day proving that they're not, and just whatever everybody else wants, they're behind. But if no black guy wants to hang out with that guy. I'm sorry. No black guy wants to hang out with that liberal white chick with the blue hair, and they don't. They have nothing in common. No black guy wants to hang out with the hate has no home here signs in the suburbs. Like, they just don't. You guys have nothing in common. The liberal whites want to be your friends really bad, and the black and Latino communities are like, relax, just keep voting in our favor and just keep it at that. We're not friends, dude. We're not friends. You're fucking lame as hell. You're not coming to the cookout. Vastly different values, vastly different priorities. There's no unifying thing. If there's one thing I think is fair to be said about the right, is that traditional Western values are a unifying principle of the right. I think that's fair. Pro-America, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a Republican who is not pro-America. You're not going to be that hard-pressed to find a Democrat voter who's not pro-America, who's anti-America. I'm not saying that goes for all Democrats. It certainly doesn't. That's why it's not a unifying thing. Even being anti-America is certainly not a unifying value among Democrat voters. There's plenty of patriotic Democrats. However, the idea of traditional values among conservative Republicans and pro-America, that is a very unifying thing. And that realization that, if we're being honest, the Democratic platform as it stands right now, not saying it has to be this way, not saying it couldn't be anything else, but as it stands right now, as is evidenced every day, as was evidenced during the debate, as is evidenced on social media, as is evidenced by Joe Biden's tweet today about this Project 2025 thing, is what unites them is being horrified of the alternative. The Biden campaign, the Biden administration spends more time talking about what Trump wants to do, what the conservatives want to do, than they spend talking about what they want to do. That's kind of wild if you think about it. You can't have a party full of people who would never hang out with each other and call that a unified party.